Yeah, it
or
is.
like
Yeah.
or one of those one of the what's that company now? I can't think of it. Hey, there's Robben Ford. Happy birthday, brother.
Oh yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank
Hey,
you very
everybody.
much.
Who's going to play it on the guitar?
What?
So who's going to play you happy birthday on the guitar?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think you guys all should play a happy birthday for Robben.
In different keys.
Do the Ornette Coleman thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thanks for joining us. We've been watching the World Cup over here. You know, France and Argentina are playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to cancel today because, you know,
No, I don't really care.
yeah.
What's the
But,
score now, Robin?
Right now, they are frigging tied. It's 2-2.
I think
Oh,
it's,
wow.
I think it's you know, overtime. So sudden death, right? We're still learning the rules.
Yeah, it appears to be an overtime
Yeah.
because the main clock has stopped. And Argentina was out in front, like all the way, you know, by the end, we didn't watch it. We came in the second half and they were already up 2-0. And then France scored like back to back within 5 minutes. It was incredible. So now yeah, it appears to be sudden death. Kelly's been following a bit, you know, throughout the years. So she's a little hipper to it, or at least has some favorite players and stuff, you know, but I don't know anything about it.
But you're learning.
I'm learning, and we live here in France now. I don't think it'll ever take the place of baseball for me, but I do want to learn it a little bit.
It's great to see everybody.
What's that? Does that mean anything?
It's our last meeting of the year, right?
Yeah, we're gonna take a few weeks off just to. My daughter's coming into town, and we just need a little break.
Awesome.
I'm going nonstop, and so I think everybody else also, right? Everyone's needs some time with family and a little downtime.
Don't we have
practice time?
practice time?
Yeah.
I actually, you know, I think I mentioned at the last dojo, it was probably for the other hemisphere, but I was saying, you know, the dojo's made me practice, which is really great. It's really great. You know, it's like, and I always want to have something when I come, you know, here, that's kind of fresh, even for me, a little bit fresh, you know. And so, yeah, I'm always kind of playing and really thinking about what I'm doing, and it serves, you know, both the dojo and myself, you know. Something I picked up on much more directly, I think, due to this, is that that element of you know, like the things that you practice aren't necessarily meant to be the things that you play. You practice to familiar yourself with the fretboard, and, you know, to think about your picking technique and, you know, your fingering technique and things like that. But when you go out to play, it's nice, you know, just, okay, you know, you just kind of let it rip a little bit more. I think I've always, yeah, I think I've always kind of worked that way intuitively to some degree, but honestly, it was kind of almost more of a combination of great desire and incredible laziness. So, you know, I never spent those, you know, 8, 10, 12-hour days ever in my whole life. And, you know, I've never practiced anything, you know, at one time for, you know, longer than probably a matter of minutes, you know, and then I'll move to something else and fool around with something else. Or, you know, I have also always taken great consolation in the, you know, songwriting, you know, as the way of developing myself. I'm doing something constructive, you know, I'm doing something musical, and I'm doing something that I want to get better at. So great, you know, that in itself, I think has served everything, whatever you do, it can serve, whatever you're looking for your final result or whatever, So, Mark, I saw you just put your guitar away.
Yeah, it's getting a bit uncomfortable at the moment. Yeah, it needs setting up, that one. I've got some work to do. It's the one I built from a kit, actually. So,
Whoa.
yeah, so I've got to cut a new nut in for it when I've got the time.
Well, that sounds painful.
It's very, very, very time consuming, like, little bits, and it's a nightmare to do. I've done them before, like, but I like it when it's finished and it's successful, but I've messed a few up in the past.
It looked like a hollow body guitar.
Can we see it?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
It's a hollow body guitar and you built it from a kit?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, there's headstock as well.
beautiful.
So I laminated that myself at that one. I bought some laminate and put this on.
Was the body constructed, or did you put that together?
No, I glued all the neck in and everything. It was all separate.
Wow.
It was completely unfinished as well. So
Sure.
You finished it too.
yeah.
Yeah.
My next project, though, is to do one right from scratch, get the wood, cut it all out, and do all the routing and everything myself.
Wow.
So
Very cool.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm a joiner by trade anyway, so it's.
Say that again.
I'm a joiner, carpenter joiner by trade anyway. So, well, that's what I used to do. I don't do it anymore, but it's sort of working with wood. It's second nature to me.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And you can do it with a musical instrument, the guitar.
Yeah. This sounds absolutely lovely, like, but I've just got to do that nut and set it up just a little bit better than what it is, and then it'd be great.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I barely know how to string my instrument, so I have to admire it.
For
Is that
sure.
semi-hollow?
Yeah, that was the semi-hollow guitar. Yeah.
Very
I
cool.
would hate to do the pickups of those things through the F holes. And
Yeah.
Well, that's a nightmare. That is tricky. That is getting all those controls through the F holes itself. Oh, so I've got fingers like pork sausages. I have.
Well, that's where you hire the electrician.
It is very difficult. Yeah.
You're the woodwork guy. Call an electrician.
I like doing it, but it was tricky because every time I put it together, there was one wire that detached, and I thought, oh no, not again.
Oh my God.
So then take it all apart, do it again.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh dear. I thought, right, okay. So I thought, I'm not having that again. So I put some thicker wire in, and which I had. And then I thought, yeah, got it. Tested it, and I thought, brilliant. I've got it working. So I'm not touched at all now.
Fantastic. Maybe that should be the last one.
I don't know. Well, it will
Get
be
the electrician once again,
semi-hollow one. It will be, but yeah, I did think about putting P90 pickups in it, but I thought I'm not going all through that soldering.
Amazing.
Again.
Yeah. So any musical questions out there? I'll dive into something at some point, but anything anyone wants to talk about that?
I got one for you.
What?
I got one for you. It's been top of mind for me.
Yeah,
So
go.
appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm trying to kind of break out of my Chicago blues, box mentality. Really work on the mechanics of the diminished scale, as you've been sharing with us. And just wanted to clarify a couple of things. So, clear, going from the 1 to the 4, that 1 becomes the 5, going to the 4.
Yeah.
And then when you're coming back from a 4 to the 1, are you thinking of the like a 2-5-1 back to the 1 chord? So like the 5 chord functions as a 5 moving back to the 1.
Well, you were just talking about returning to the 1 chord from the 4 chord.
Right. Yeah. So how do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, so that happens in the middle, right?
Yeah.
The blues, yeah, like the 5th and 6th bars, I guess,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, so the way that you can expand that is to you know, make it a diminished chord,
Mhm.
right? So I think technically the what you'd call that, I just happen to have a guitar right here.
Cool.
I broke out the Les Paul.
Nice.
So the let's see. I think it's always a little hard for me to tell, but it has to kind of come this way. All right.
That works. Yeah.
So you know, key of A, you know, God dang, I never spent so much time in the key of A until the dojo. So we're in A, right? Does it sound okay?
Yep.
So there's a lick. So it goes, you know, kind of D to that.
Okay.
You know that sound.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
So it's D sharp diminished.
Right. Brings you back to your 1.
Yeah. So did you kind of get that, what I just played right there?
Yep. And then as you go to your 5, and your 5's moving to your 4.
Well, you're back to the 1 there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I use that arpeggio a lot because you can play it right off of A minor, right? Yeah, so I'm playing, I was just playing this quick change, right? So let's do a slow change. D, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
On the last
Cool.
2 beats before you return to the 1.
And now when you go to your 5, that's moving to your 4.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just totally picking your brain.
Oh, that's quite all right.
How do you think of that?
Not much you can do there.
Okay.
Those are 2 independent chords.
Yeah.
Certainly to me.
Okay.
You know, because there's like a dominant chord moves down a whole step. You know, there's you
seems kind of isolated. Yeah.
5, 1, 4. You know, you could do that. Let's see if I could do that, because it actually is right when it's like going down a half step, right? That right there.
Yeah.
That's the altered, you know, A, right? So you can kind of play, you can play 5, 1, right? You just treat the A as an altered chord for that beat. That's what happens actually when you go. That's actually what happens. That beat is that E flat is the it's A flat 13.
Oh,
right? So there's not a lot of time there, because I certainly have a habit of sort of defining the chord that I'm on, I kind of play the tones of the chord really in the scale. That's really almost entirely what I do. Is just play the tones in the scale, the chord and the tones of the scale that runs through the chord. So, once again, there's just not a lot of time to do anything in there between the 5 chord and the 4 chord, but you can go 5 chord, altered 1 chord, 4 chord, and it's virtually the same thing. When you just go down a half step, that E flat 9 is a flat 13,
One last question for you. I'll turn it over to other people.
Go ahead.
In one of your recent lessons, you did the half diminished scale, and you were resolving from the 5 to the 1.
That's exactly what this E flat would be.
Okay.
You'd play the half diminished scale. You'd play that's what that is. Kind of drawing the chord. If you play that, I'm just playing E flat 9. That's E flat 7. That's the 9. That's a lick that I'm sure is in the dojo. Right? That's the E7 before returning to the 1. I'm just playing the 7th chord. Do it with me. Do you have a guitar there, John?
I'm terrified now, but yes.
Oh, no. Don't think anything of it. You just play E7. So this is a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't do. Is sort of like they don't know how to play this triad like this. I'm just playing E. There's the 7th.
Yeah.
If you can play this chord, I know you can play this chord, John. Right? E7?
Yeah.
Yeah? Just put the B in there. I'm just picking up my little finger. Can you do that?
Trying to zoom in on you here.
So E, G sharp, B, D. It's just the E7 chord. And I'm adding a B in the arpeggio.
Yeah. I'm doing that.
That's it. So then just go. Go ahead. F.
Yeah.
E. There it is. Yes. So that's on the last beat. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it starts on the upbeat of 3 of the last bar. 1, 2, 3. Then you just trick it out, you know?
Yeah.
A-E triad, yeah. 1, 2, 3. See, this is the thing. People don't want to just play a friggin' triad. That's all I'm doing. Just play an A7.
I do that all the time. I'm trying to do other stuff.
So then add that little half step in there. Because I played half steps, I just kept going. Right?
Cool.
All half steps down to D, minor third, A, G. See, I would play that first, and then I would embellish the D, then I'd put the half step in. For instance, you know, just the way I think. Because I want to embellish. So I've broadened it, but all I've done is just played the same triad and put that little half step in there. So I elongated the phrase in a very simple way.
Yeah.
Variations on a theme. Kept going, elongated the phrase on the A, but it's triad with a 7th, you know, arpeggio.
Yeah.
And then just use those half steps to elongate the phrase. Yes. Whoever did that. I think, David, were you putting your hand up there?
I was wondering if I could ask a quick follow-up in this context.
For sure.
So it's common when moving from the 4 chord back to the 1 chord to play over this D sharp diminished.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
When moving from the 5 chord back to the 1 chord, it seems less common, unless I'm missing something, to play, let's say in this case, the F diminished, like a half step up to the E. Am I?
Oh, right. Well, that's a great question. I had never thought about that, but it's right. You can't. That is something absolutely you can do, because that's just the diminished scale in the key of E.
Right.
Yeah. Because the F is just the 2nd degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And indeed, I do it all the time, man. So I think this phrase is probably in the licks. It's the same as this we just did a minute ago. So just diminished arpeggio and resolves very nicely. So right?
Tower 407.
Is that
407?
sorry, we're hearing some.
Tower
to music.
407.
Something.
Yeah, that sounded official.
Freddie, you need to mute. Yeah.
Okay. So does that, David, did that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I was thinking that's what you would say. I guess
Yeah.
my question stemmed a bit. My impression is like in the old, I don't like to use the word old, but instead of the classic bebop-ish jazz thing, it seems to be less of a thing, right? The diminished going from the 4 back to 1, where you're going, that's almost cliche, right? So, but it's much less of a cliche going to 5 to 1. Like, yeah.
But definitely that's really great. I'm really glad you brought that up, that you can do that, because it almost doesn't make sense, right? If you can do it, on the 4 and then you alter it, then how could you do it from the 5?
Mm-hmm.
But it works. It absolutely works. Let me just show you something here, because like triads, I stress chords a lot because that's how I learned the guitar, was through chords, So the triads, well, let's see. Anything diminished can be moved in minor thirds, right? So so if you can play an E, I'm playing E like this. This is something it would also be great if everyone could get used to playing kind of inside the guitar. You know what I mean? I hardly ever use the E string. It's very rare that I use the E string, the high E. I'm always everything's happening in here on the D, G, and E. That's just an E6, C sharp minor with a E in the middle. Okay, so we all know that. Let's see, I'll play it in G just because of the positioning here. So as I always like to say, G7, it's a diminished chord, right? Because it's actually an altered chord. Diminished scale. All the notes of a G7 are contained within the diminished scale. There's the 3rd, raised 4th, there's the 5th, 6th, 7th. So, you don't really call a G triad a diminished chord, but there is a G triad within the G diminished scale. You will find all of those notes. So, any 7th chord I can relate to as a diminished chord. I just don't have any problem with that. If it's a 7th chord, it's a diminished chord to me. It doesn't sound like the way we use diminished, but it actually is. Any flat 7 chord, is diminished. And within the diminished scale, you'll find a G major. In the key of G, you'll find a G triad. So, anything diminished, you can move in minor thirds. Okay, so we're just playing a blues in A. So that E7 is the 5 chord. So all those triads, that's diminished. Right? And these are the altered chords. These give you very basic voicings that you can use to play altered chords. So that's E. I'm playing D flat. And I can play the diminished scale off the E. play it off the G. B flat. So all of this is a long-winded way of showing you a riff on the 5 chord in the spirit of this, you know, diminished half step above the E, right? So diminished in F, so to speak. You can play the D flat triad. That'd be more literal. D flat triad. E triad. So once again, playing the guitar in here, you know, you need to get inside the low in the high E string. Play your chord off the A string. So this is just D flat. So you notice that I'm always doing this. Da 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 boom. That's I need that. I need to phrase in that straight 8s thing. Da 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 da. Because that's where all jazz is played, in that kind of straight 8s way. The blues, you know, traditionally, you know, is more bendy and moving around and playing over the bar and shit. So what we're trying to do is expand the jam, right? We're trying to get outside the box. And this is how I did it, was by learning chords. Learning that I could play, okay, I can play an E triad. I can play G, B flat, D flat, you know? All those chords are contained. There's B flat. All the notes of G are contained. You know what I mean? Diminished scale, anything diminished can be moved in minor thirds. If you can play an E triad, you have a G triad, you have a B flat triad, you have a D flat triad. And those are your altered, that's where you get your altered notes. That's where you find them, you know, they're just right there and can be played as arpeggios. So Louise, you had a question?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, in relation to the diminished chords, do they have to be diminished? Well, basically, I've been using your diminished as an ending.
Diminished. That's not diminished.
But the minor third rung on non-diminished chords to end pieces. I just wonder. So, for example, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is there any? Are there any ending kind of patterns that you really like if you're songwriting or creating music? Is there anything instead of say like you know, an ending like that? Is there any kind of diminishing chord patterns or anything that you think actually this is nicer than or more artistic than just a run?
You mean in a blues context?
Well, that would be a blues context, wouldn't it? But is there any sort of things that you think actually this is nice? How do you end songs basically that you've written yourself, or you know, anything? I keep doing this.
Oh yeah. So you're talking about classic endings, really?
Yeah, not to get out of a cliche ending.
I've never done it. I've never gotten out of the cliche ending. No, I think what happens in between the beginning and the end is way more important.
Okay.
So, you know, like what you're talking about is something I've always admired. I mean, there are just some marvelous, it looks like, you hear that?
Somebody's won.
But they haven't.
Ah.
But some people are just acting crazy out here. It's just, these people
Yeah.
are nuts. Now they're still playing. Okay, so that kind of a thing. It's not something holy shit. It's not something that I've explored much. Hey, baby, it's mighty noisy in here.
That is crazy in the northern part of Paris too, where I am. Yeah, that's crazy. France just break even. Yeah, right. 3-3 just on the after time. No, 3-3 even.
Well, oh, then we're getting it late.
Yeah, absolutely. In the final minutes, so everything could happen now.
Again. We're getting it late. Yeah, our friend Xavier here just let us know. He said they've tied it 3-3.
Okay, I'm not seeing it on our, anyway.
There's a lag.
There's
Some kind of a lag.
The streets are freaking out. They're like screaming all across the buildings and
ridiculous.
Yeah, the same here.
seeing it on our feed.
You celebrate with a nice baguette and some wine.
We're talking guitar, not football.
But Louise, yeah, I mean, that is something that, like, is kind of up to you. That, you know, there are some very classic things like that, but there are only like 5 or 3, you know. I mean, there are things that people use that are classic, but, you know, like I did a thing, for instance, you know, I don't know if you've ever heard a recording I did called I Ain't Got Nothing But the Blues. So the ending on that, I'm like, I just wanted to hear a bunch of descending 2 5s. So it's like, okay, I have only so many beats, you know, in which to accomplish that. So how high can I start before I reach my ending? And it's mathematical problem, basically. You know, if I have 6 beats, I can only fit 6 in there, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And then it's just really up to you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, on a lot of albums and things, obviously there's maybe not so much now, but there used to be a lot of fade outs. And one of the fade outs from Court and Spark, which I just absolutely love, was that
oh yeah.
I mean, that makes my heart melt so much. I absolutely, and you could just imagine everyone in the studio, you obviously, just carrying on that groove for a it's heavenly. But in a
and you can make things like that up, you know. That really, you know, I mean, she just made it up, and it's not like it's the most, you know, like, I'm sure something like that had been done over time, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, somewhere somebody did something, you know, if not exactly, very much like that, you know. And for me, my 2-5 thing, you know, at the end of I Ain't Got Nothing But the Blues, I had heard something like that. I must have somewhere. And, you know, so you just this is what I like about having a big musical mind, you know, a big, like where you can be influenced by classical music, you know. You can be influenced by classical music. And because there's all kinds of things that happen in classical music that are very simple. You know, I mean, the Indian music, you can be influenced by that, or any kind of music you can be influenced by. So kind of having a bigger mind, so to speak. I don't mean mind, but a larger to draw. You know, you can draw on all kinds of things, you know.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and it's very you know, like people get caught up in being jazz players or being blues players or being rock players, you know, it's like, holy shit, there's so much more music out there, and you don't have to be a master of any of, it's good to be a master of one if you can. It's good to have a center. For me, it was the blues. I've gone out into a lot of other things, but I always bring it back to a blues setting, and I use it in a blues setting, you know?
Yeah.
That's also very helpful. Brian, you had a question there?
Yeah, thanks. Just a follow-up question on one of the first concepts we were talking about when you reference playing notes of the chord, kind of highlighting the changes, so to speak.
Yeah.
How do you think about that when the chords are moving really fast? So say you've got like a 6-2-5-1 in the blues where it's changing every bar, or even in a non-blues situation where it's like, if it's a jazz standard or even like an R&B song that's like, say, diatonic with some secondary dominance, something that's a little bit less standard. Like, do you think of it from chord to chord and pick different scales for every chord like a lot of the jazz guys do? Or you seem to stress simplicity. So I'm wondering if you have kind of a way that gets the right effect, but maybe is a little bit easier on the brain.
Well, I mean, the quick answer to that is I don't play things that move fast. I'm serious, you know, I made a decision at a certain point in my life. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do that. It's like, okay. And so I'm not, I don't do it, but yes, chord to chord to chord to chord to chord, you know? And of course, the more you familiarize yourself with any of those kinds of things, like the 1-6-2-5, eventually it starts to become, you know, like, it's just in your ear, you know, and 1-6-2-5, that is something that you can digest. You know, for me, like something like giant steps, it's like, forget it. You know, I'm never going to do it. It's just not going to happen. And I gave up trying I never even tried with giant steps, but I stopped, you know, relating that way, you know. So I don't really have much to say about it other than, yes, I do think chord to chord. You know, there's a chord and it has a scale in it. There's a chord and it has a scale in it. So I try to find a way to make it musical. Whatever it is, just try to find a way to make it musical. And sometimes the way to make it musical is to not play at all. You know, I kind of come from that space, you know. And for me, like Miles Davis is, you know, he was one of the masters of that, you know, of just like, he'll just play a few notes, you know, in those situations, and then, you know, play more notes when it's more open for him to go, you know. If you listen to Miles, like, you know, after a while, you kind of get it, you know, what's going on with him.
I do listen to him a lot. I haven't dissected his playing so much because, I mean, I love his sound. He plays chromatically a lot and really high in the register. So it's a little bit tough to relate to as a guitar player sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But by the way, this is my first time joining. I'm from the Bay. I'm from the Bay Area, and I saw your show recently. It was killer.
Thank you. That with Joe Robinson?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Palace of Fine Arts. It was my first time seeing you live. It was awesome.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was a blast for me to get to play there. I didn't have my sound. You know, I had the Dumble head, but I didn't have the cabinet. I was playing through that 4x12 Marshall, and I was also playing the SG.
Yeah.
I love that guitar, but not for a whole night. And but all of those were just practicality reasons. You know, I had to take it back to Europe. I was trying to get my SG back to France. The shipping these things is terribly expensive. And the Dumble amplifier head, you know, I had thought I would even bring that, but I wound up not. So anyway, yeah, that was for all practical reasons. I'm making excuses for anything that didn't sound good.
No, it sounded great from the third row. I actually have one question from that concert. You probably don't remember because you play so much, but at some point between songs, I think maybe you were changing a setting or something on a pedal, and someone from the audience said something. I don't know if it was a request or whatever. and you said something to the effect of "not a chance" or something like that. Do you remember?
Oh,
I didn't hear what they said, so I got no context there. But I was wondering if you remember what it was.
I mean, it might have been "play talk to your daughter."
Okay. Okay.
Not a chance.
I keep wanting to play talk to your daughter, but he won't. He won't do it.
You retired that one, huh?
None of the old stuff. He won't play any of it. But anyway.
I like, yeah. I'm just, I don't have anything more to say on that particular song. So it could have easily been that.
You played a few songs off of one of your recent EPs, right? And I didn't recognize the songs at first, and then I went back and listened to the album for the first time, and I think it's called "Made to Last," maybe.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a great album. It's like 4 or 5 songs, right? It's a great
songs.
sound, and it's got a really kind of raw, nice production to it.
Yes, indeed. I mean, that was done 8 years ago, maybe. That's an older recording, but yes, I mean, we recorded it in 2 days. So, yeah, raw. But I liked that quality too. And also in the mix, I made an effort to do some different things. I made an effort to, like not do the classic thing. It's like every engineer sits down in front of the desk and stereo drum mix. Everybody, it's form A, that guy's a really good engineer, but that, like a lot of engineers are just, they want everything to sound, this stereo and all this stuff, stereo in particular, drums. And so I'm like, move all the drums to the left. Just put up the drums on the left, And I grew up listening to records that sounded like that all the time.
Yeah, it's like Beatles. It's like Revolver.
Well, I think even Revolver was recorded originally in mono, was it not?
This was
maybe.
But yeah, what they wound up doing was you'd have all the instruments on one side and all the vocals on the other. Coltrane's records. Coltrane's on the friggin' left. And I'm trying to think, it's like if the drums are kind of take up all of the right and the piano and bass are in the middle, something like that. But that was so you really heard the drums, you really heard Coltrane, and those were kind of the most important things, I think, in their thinking on the records. And then all of this was, filling it out, and that all came from the middle. But Coltrane, Elvin Jones, So yeah, and we grew up listening to records like that. So it's something you can try now, and people do it all the time. I mean, that wasn't an original idea from me. In fact, I'd heard other people do it, and I'm like, yeah, why not? Move that shit over there, put that over there, put distortion on the bass, doing that, using distortion on the bass, Of course, everybody's recording real clean and everything's perfect, It's like, so how can we not do that,
Oh, it's a good song.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. For 2 days, man, we did a lot of good work in 2 days there. Thank you. No, not too many people are aware of that recording, I don't think, Yes, Chris Buckley.
Hey, good morning from New Orleans, Louisiana. It's my first time being able to join in person. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Right on. Thank you, man.
Welcome, Chris. Haven't seen you before. Welcome to the Zoom hang.
Yeah, this is really, really exciting, really cool. I've been catching up on all of the Zoom recordings recently, and as a big Miles Davis fan, it's been particularly cool to hear about your time in the band, as well as the context for the sort of music that y'all were playing, where kind of chord changes went out the window. And it's a funny thing, because a guy such as yourself, well, you get that gig because of your proficiency and able to play over those chords, and then you get there and the assignment is, well, the chords are out the window. And I was curious to know, just off the top of your head, any reflections that you have about your time in that band with that music that's so open, was there anything that was particularly challenging or exciting for you when you know what the vibe and the feel of that is going to be, and having to stretch it out and make it all work with that much freedom?
Well, I was kind of hip to the fact that it was, he wasn't playing chords. He kind of stopped playing chords a long time ago. In the 60s, he had stopped playing chords. So that wasn't a surprise, And I don't think that he chose me because he thought I could. He might have, been aware that I was able to do that, at least to some degree, from other recordings that he heard that were played for him, checking me out, But, the things that I got from working with him, the most important thing was confidence, because it's, I'm around musicians that I often feel, in fact, I know are more evolved than I am, but there's something that I can do that's very particular to me. It's my own personal chop, and it fit. It fit with his music. Where it was at today. Had I been invited to play with Herbie Hancock, Tony Williams, Ron Carter, and Wayne Shorter, I probably wouldn't have been the guy. But he chose people kind of knowing, that this person will be capable of this music, So fortunately, I was able to hang, and it was more a matter of confidence, honestly, than anything else. The ability to be in that band required confidence, and it also required, or I should say, the gift from having spent that time with him and knowing that he dug me was like, okay, I don't care. Somebody else does or doesn't like me. He likes me. So I'm good. So that built my confidence in a way so that it's like, okay, because I have often found myself in the company of musicians that, again, I know are more skilled, more developed, actually better at, let's say more evolved musicians, not better musicians, but more evolved, And so I could be intimidated in those situations. I really don't care anymore. And if I don't fit, I just walk away. I won't go, it's not for me, So he gave me a lot of confidence, just to believe in myself, You're good, good to go. Do your thing. Don't worry about it, So that was a great blessing, to have that experience where you're sort of, it felt like being knighted, I became a knight of the jazz table or whatever, because I'm good. I'm just over here. If you need me, okay, I'm there,
Yeah, if knowing that Miles Davis thinks that you can hang, if that's not validation, then what is?
I'm good. Yeah, exactly. And I know I can't do everything. Absolutely not. There's so many things that I can't do, but I don't care. I'm okay because I can do my thing, and he liked it. So, okay, I'm good.
You sounded great on that tour.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Back in your Strat days.
I was playing Strat. Yeah, I didn't really have Strat days. I used it. I used it with Miles, and I used it with David Sanborn when I played with him. Very little outside of that, other than some recording here and there. And I'm not a Strat guy. Never have been. Alberto, you got your hand up there.
I want to say hi, Alberto.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Alberto's going to be working with us, just everyone so you know, pretty soon.
Cool.
He's going to be helping us integrate
Yes.
another way for us all to communicate together. called Discord, which is such a strange name.
Yes,
But
we're going to get closer through Discord.
Yeah, he's gonna be the one responsible, and we're just working it out. And so thank you, Alberto. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, very welcome. It's a pleasure, actually. It's a big pleasure for me. So I had a question, Robin. In all these years of playing, did you learn many songs? I mean, covers, or did you mainly work on, I don't know, phrases and songwriting?
Well, I played a ton of blues, in the beginning. And I started at a very early age. I mean, like, I probably 19. I started trying to integrate this jazz language into what I was doing with primarily Chicago blues and B.B. King. Those are my two sources, because there was something about the Chicago blues where, they just had these nifty little things that they did, creative little things that happened within this 12-bar context, 8-bar blues, it's just very simple. And you could do these nice things in there. And B.B. King, of course, just because it swung and it was more, big band, a lot of big band kind of influence in B.B.'s music. So those two genres of the blues. I was never way into Albert King, or Freddie King, people like that. Albert Collins I liked because he just swung like a mofo, And that was jazzy to me, just that swing factor, So ask your question again. I lost the thread there.
Yeah. So if you learned in all these years of playing, if you learned like many songs, if you studied many songs, I mean, like covers, because we like working on phrases, licks, riffs, chord voicings and all this stuff. And then I'm like, should I learn a song as well?
That's great. That's a great question. Because you need to apply it, right?
Yeah.
That's why I started writing music.
Yeah.
It was a big part of it was to practice what I was learning, apply, what can I do with these chords, And, again, for me, I consider myself a limited musician, in that I've had no training. So I didn't want to play other people's music for my life. I wanted to play my own music in my life. So I started writing, and if I'm going to write something, I had chords. I knew chords, so how can I use these chords to, further along a musical idea? And that's where chords, started becoming really cool, because, like the sound of that chord, that chord, that chord, all different. I was thinking about this today. I'm going to go ahead and kind of demonstrate something here in the spirit of, So if we play the note, let's see, I'll play an E. So E chord, right? Okay, so what other notes can what other chords can I play that have an E in them? How about that? Chord voicings that have an E in them. Okay, so there's an A, and there's an E on top. I can also play that A chord like this. Okay, I can play D major 7, add 9. C major 7. A6 9 with the C sharp in the root. F sharp minor. B minor 11. Whoops. Well, let's see. B flat major 7, flat 5. C sharp minor, F major 7, C major 7, B minor 9 here. There's the B flat again. A minor with an E on the top. C9. That's just a cool voicing. So all of those chords come out of Mickey Baker, Volume 1. So I hit an E in my melody. I'm writing a song. Which chord will I play? And you have all these chords. Mickey Baker, Volume 1. All these chords that you can play to, just to make that one note sound a lot of different ways. So this is why chords are so important. And I think, Alberto, this kind of addresses it, doesn't it? I lost you on the screen. Oh, there you are down here. Okay. It's like, so this is about the songwriting thing. So I started using my chords in this way, to flesh out my songs, Have you the Mickey Baker book?
I do have it. I didn't know about it before you talked about it.
No, nobody does.
I had two versions of it.
It's an old book. You have to,
Yeah, what is it, 50s maybe?
Well, I bought it when I was 19, and I think that book's out of the 40s. Does anyone know?
Yeah, I think you're right. My brother, I had two versions. I had two Mickey Baker books. Mm-hmm. I had the jazz and blues guitar one, and I had the first book. Mm-hmm. My brother heard you talking about it, and he stole them from me.
Okay. Well, yes, like there's Volume 1, and then there's Volume 2.
Yeah. There was one of those jazz and blues guitar. I had the picture of him on the front.
Yeah, I don't know that one. That's probably a different book.
Yeah.
But so all of those chords, again, they're all in a Mickey Baker. So learn the chord voicings, and then go, like my first note is ah. So what's your first chord? And it's E. Mm-hmm. or is it? Or is it F major 7? Or is it F minor 7, minor 11? Or is it G major 6? Or is it C sharp minor? Or is it C major 7? Or is it D? There's and so I can tell you honestly and straightforwardly, when I write a song, I go through all those chords, man. I mean, not always. I don't always go through them, but that potentially I will go through them. I'm not thinking Mickey Baker anymore. I mean, this stuff is, and I know it all over the guitar now. If I want to, you can play an F, and you should be able to play an F sharp minor all over the place, right? That is big. And that's just learning the guitar, learning the fretboard. You learn it through chords. That's how I learned the guitar. I learned it through chords. And yeah, you should be playing songs.
Yeah, that question.
Yeah, and ideally you would be playing in a band,
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, that question came to me because again, we love learning and studying and practicing licks and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And but I'm also like, when should I, apply them, or should I learn songs or either compose actually? That's of course a personal thing.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, let me, just one thing that I kind of noticed, I do a little bit sort of spontaneously, but I never took it as a practice. But John Scofield took it as a practice to just play songs, like Christmas songs. Just sit down and play Santa Claus is Coming to Town. And I'm not kidding, because, we think it's the simplest song in the world, but it exercises everything in music. There isn't anything in music that isn't exercised in Happy Birthday. Play Happy Birthday using chords. And you might, you find a chord that like, oh man, that's a really cool chord right there. And that's where you find those endings that we were talking about earlier, It's by fooling around with those chords. You find them. As long as you know the chords, try them all. Which one sticks. I wrote a song called, let's see. I don't know if I can really retrace this, but I was actually thinking about this just the other day. I wrote a song called I'm Older Today. It's on the Renegade Creation Bullet album. Anybody who hasn't heard the Renegade Bullet album, for me, it's like some of my favorite writing I ever did. And it's lyrical, it's lyrics, So, I mean, like, let's see. It's kind of a sad song. So let's not do it. But there's also kind of hipper in a way. Well, not hipper, but my song, it's called we've talked about this before. Forgive me for repeating myself. But shoot. Here we go. Nazareth. The day I arrived in Nazareth, PA. Now what? I like to hear movement. I didn't want to hear some, it could have gone there. Dirty and warm. Could have done that. But instead, I played dirty and warm. Hitchhike most of the way. The car left untended several borders ago. Now, all those chords, is it the car left untended? Could have been several borders, borders ago. There's so many ways that, you can go with this. I hate saying that because that sounds daunting. There are actually a limited number of ways. And it's like 7, maybe, It's not like you're asking yourself to be creative and invent something new. You're just finding the right chord that gives the emotion that you're looking for and continues the story forward. So all these chords have feeling, there's a feeling that's generated in the chord. Look at as many of them as you can, that's how I work. I serve that, whatever the chord is, the choice serves that moment, that emotional moment, that sonic moment, like that. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I think Thomas had a question. Did you not have it anymore, Thomas?
Just real quick, we're getting to the end there. The Mickey Baker was a huge eye opener for me. I got the book in 1971. And I've been using it ever since. And one of the things I wanted to say was applying notes to expression and tone.
Yeah.
You can learn all the notes in the world, but if you have no tone and applying them to express, your tone is so incredible. And the notes that you choose the tone expresses the notes more than the technique. It's just incredible how you do it. And it's literally opened my eyes to a tremendous difference in how I play.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And, you can
actually,
play.
That is the technique. Like I finally realized, it's like, I actually put all my effort into that, like that was that was the study, you know, that was the practice, and that is the technique, you know.
You know, when you just have a half step, all, you know, if that tone is starting with that, all, you know, all of a sudden that's a voice. It's
Yes.
a statement. And
Yes.
as you progress, so you can know. That's all good, you know, but if you start with that, you know, as you go, as the tone expresses the feeling,
Yeah.
the notes then become, you know, more just pulling off the colors off your palette. And it's just amazing what happens. But the tone,
Yes.
the tone sets the stage for
I
all
agree.
the notes that follow. It's
Yep.
so amazing. You know?
I
And
agree.
you do it just killer.
Well,
So,
thank you.
you know.
And again, that was the idea. That was the idea.
Yeah.
You know what I like to say, you know, that you need to invest yourself. Like that's investing oneself into the notes that you're playing. And you know, you're not just hitting the note and, you know, like pick, finger. I mean, that's where it starts. But it's like, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to be able to say something. And that's where you come into the picture.
Right.
Investing yourself. That's the term I use.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get hung up in the speed of things and the, you know, how many, I mean, certainly.
And the pedal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But, you know, when you hear the statement being made and it moves you, it's not just, it's the emotion behind the note choice, you know.
It's a choice.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all.
We have a hand up over here. Roberta, you had something.
Hi, yes, thank you. I have I guess a novice songwriting question.
Please.
All right. Because I've been attempting songwriting, but mine are very Beatles, and I've been trying to do what you've been talking about, and I really appreciate your openness today. It's like, oh, it's clicking, because I was trying to do what you said, but I think I didn't know enough chords. So I'll make a list. But my question is, when you have a song, there's a lot of symmetry in a song. You have a verse, and then it's the same chords with the verse. So if say you have the first verse of your song, do you ever vary when you get to a second verse or third verse, because the emotion is different? So you might have different chords in that?
There's no reason in the world why not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it would be close, but different, maybe, or?
Well, you know, you'd be just kind of moving into another space. A friend of mine, Russell Ferrante, the great keyboard player, Yellow Jackets, Russell was talking to me, he was about Chopin. He'd been listening to Chopin, and he said, you know, he starts a theme, you know, he plays a theme, and you know, the kind of the what's the word, the discipline maybe of classical music is to state a theme and then develop it, right?
Right.
So the theme goes like this, and then you invert the theme. You know, I mean, that they do this in you know, like composers. You know, you invert the theme. You play it upside down. You play it backwards. This is very common practice in classical music. Maybe even as far back as, you know, Mozart and people like that. I'm not sure, but you know, he said he was listening to Chopin, and he goes, you know, he plays a melody. He plays a theme, what most, you know, composers would consider a theme, and now I'm going to develop this theme. And he said, and he just leaves it in the dust, goes on to something else. And so that's where you're being creative, you know, and you're not hung up. You don't have to do anything anybody ever said. But songwriting can be a discipline, you know. Tom Scott, when I first, very early, you know, I was 22 when I started working with those guys. And he says to me, look, Robben, I like this 4 bars to look just like the next 4 bars. I want
Right.
to look identical. And I'm like, wow, what that is a practice. It's a discipline. It's a practice. It's a way to go. And it helps you, develop your songwriting. Like they say, first learn the rules. You have to learn the rules before you can break them.
Okay.
It's a lot of people's beef about Ornette Coleman. It appeared that he didn't know the rules and he just was doing whatever the hell he wanted. I think he probably knew the rules, but nobody ever heard him playing by the rules. So anyway, I think you should just have complete confidence in yourself on that tip. Just go,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That helps. Okay.
I've had a few good people tell me things like that, Charlie Hayden, the great bass player, passed away some years ago. Very sad. He played with Ornette Coleman as a young man. And I had the great pleasure of getting to know him. And I worked with him on a Ricky Lee Jones record called Pop Pop. And that's an album of standards. We've talked about it here. I played the nylon string acoustic and it was just, wow, really challenging. But Ricky was, saying, I don't really want that chord and in there. And we're playing standards and we're playing them by the book. And he goes, oh, just take it out. Why not? Nobody's going to jail, Okay, I think it's a fairly good place to stop. And Kelly's cooking lentils.
Well, thank you everybody for joining. I guess you probably know we're going to take a couple weeks off, like I mentioned earlier, and have a happy holiday and enjoy your friends and family like we are. And
we should say hello to Walter.
Walter, just it was great to see you in Zurich, Walter.
We met Walter after the show in Zurich.
Yeah.
And really sorry we couldn't hang. We were just so tired.
Yeah, just burnt out, and it was like the end of so it was great to see you.
The concert was great. It was just great.
Thank you.
For me, it was a band like a magic carpet, and you were dancing on this carpet and danced the blues. It was great.
This was the Zurich Jazz Orchestra, so it was a big band.
Yeah. A big band. Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah. Really, really.
Thank you for that.
It was really fun to see Robben, in that situation. I've never seen it before, so it's really, really cool.
Yeah, there's some footage of basically the same charts and the same arranger, Ed Partika, on YouTube with the Frankfurt Big Band, HR
Big Band.
I think HR Big Band. It's on YouTube if you want to check out what basically we did. And Walter was at that show.
Yeah, super sweet.
All right, everybody.
Take it
Thank
easy.
you very much.
We'll leave it open.
Thank you.
For you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Yes, and feel free to hang.
Oh,
Anybody
okay.
wants to hang.
Sure. No